Hello, beautifuls. Current meeting of the Crossroads folks and our YouTube community. This is our March 26th transit message. We are going to be talking about the energies in play from now until just a couple of days after the eclipse. So Monday, Tuesday next week. And I'll do another one then, speaking about the energies afterwards. But the energies of where we are now, there's quite a bit of intensity in the world right now. There's this like funnel point that we're kind of being squeezed into as we are like revisiting old lessons. New ones are beginning to slowly chug their way in. I want to talk a little bit about this Mars Venus retrograde that's happening, and talk a little bit about the eclipse energy that's going to be happening on Saturday. And we're gonna go from there. Okay, so I'm gonna share my just gonna talk for a minute, I think. So I want to pull our attention to planetary wise Mercury, Venus, and Neptune. Our communication, our values, our love, how we were shown love growing up, how we've learned to receive love, learned to give love, learn to recognize love, learn to identify love, and the ways in which we receive illusions, Neptune, dreams, twists in an understanding. It's our spirit's work. It is the need to turn. Earlier, Hannah and I were talking about a kaleidoscope. She was speaking about her day and speaking about all the different pieces in a kaleidoscope. And like, okay, well, there's all these different stories and things and layers that are happening. And you turn it this one layer, one twist. What happens when you turn it that one twist? What happens when you shift the perspective? In this kaleidoscope of a moment, we're looking at Venus that is beginning to shift in and out of water and fire, grief and pride, also intuition and love. There's a lot being asked as Neptune is making its first pass through Aries in quite some time, about 187 years or so, since Neptune, the planet of illusions, the planet of dreams, the planet of our spirit's work, right? The kaleidoscope, that willingness to see the pieces in a kaleidoscope and then all of our perspectives of it, and then be willing to turn it a quarter turn where we allow the light fractal to show us another story through the same pieces is kind of an example of what Neptune's medicine can do. If we can recognize that the stories that it's showing us are an illusion that are meant as a lesson. Whew, boy, it brings up a whole lot of whew, right? And so Mercury, Venus, and Neptune, all of those energies I was just speaking about, they're all in the same gate, gate 25. This gate 25 energy straddles Pisces and Aries. It's the gate of being love, love of spirit. It's the it is the innocence that lives inside of the body and looks to simply experience life. Gate 25 is the only gate that everything has. The stone right here has gate 25. That cat, who's not laying over there right now, she has gate 25. I have gate 25, meaning we have it in our charts. Many times as we move through species, there's shifts and changes in the gene key or the human design charts. And when it boils right down to it, all even inanimate objects have gate 25. Everything has the capacity to simply represent love. What does it mean to represent love? What does it mean to stand there and be love in times like these? Richard Rudd calls the shadow constriction training. We get to stand there in the face of all the constriction of how all the world, our past, our current, our parents, our partners, our people we grow up with, people that we work with, people that we're in service to, people who are in our community. These are all places where there can be constriction, there can be anxiety, there can be restlessness. Some people have a problem with the word anxiety. What it is a pressure. It's this pressure to be able to be something, to know something, to stand for something, when you might not have any clue what it is that is at stake. When we are super young, when we are experience things that are very vastly outside of our ability to connect it to something that we know, it can leave us very disconnected, disjointed. Right? This is a G center gate. So this is all about where this is like a lighthouse kind of energy. You know, where is your presence and your sense of being love? Where's your initiation, your pioneering? It's part of that channel. This is a projected energy. So when it comes to being that, it's an energy that pierces through. So it may not always be, not everybody likes all kinds of rocks. Not everybody likes all kinds of persons. Not everybody likes all kinds of expressions of love. And that's okay. We don't need to like get all upset about it. We can just like go our separate ways, right? Problem is when we don't do that and we like assume somehow something is wrong because they're not our version of something. That's when things get a little squiffy. Um, It has a melancholiness over the lack of love. The I Ching called it innocence, heaven over thunder, the myth of the sacred wound of love. It's not self-affirmation, is not being able to look at my own pain. And we're in a victim state of constricted breathing, right? So it's like difficult to look, well, I can't, I'm not breathing well, and so I don't look. Right. And it's when I'm not speaking necessarily about a cognition here of a mental understanding. I'm speaking about a cellular in the body, things you may have experienced growing up, conditionings, trauma, pains. This might also be ancestral. It might be collective. There's no right and wrongs in any of this. This is simply where are you in this matrix of connection? Pain is another point along the process of where we can see ourselves. If pain and pleasure, which can also be their own cycle of, hunting for pain and pleasure, driven mad by pain. And so you seek the pleasure, and they are deep extremes. And at the same time, pleasure and pain walk hand in hand. And so if we can love them both without craving the other, then we can be in that place of recognizing how much is being carried, right? The repressive state for gate 25 is ignorant. We don't know how much we're carrying. We don't know how much the weight of that story and how I felt about that moment and the things that got brought up over here, and then this thing that's being expected of me now, and the calling that's being inspired here, but I only feel it cellularly, and on, can become an overwhelm that, especially to neurospicy bodies, whew, this time period can be very heavy, especially with this kind of gate 25 energy. 3 levels of, constriction training. We're inside of this place of, can we look more and more deeply at our own pain, at where we are uncomfortable, and leaning more and more gently and deeply into, why, my dear? Where? What is it trying to show us? If pain is a teacher, then when we submit to our teacher and we go, teach me, teacher, then the lessons learned there can be softer, can be more subtle. The louder they get, the more impactful it becomes. The more, if we can take it, we can handle the little extra challenge and go, oh, this might be where life's telling me I'm a little dense. Hold on, let me try to listen a little clearer here. And learning to tune our ear to listen to a kind of perspective is a little like trying to find someone else's spot in the kaleidoscope. It can take a hot minute, like it's not a thing that just happens. And we can choose towards it. We can set our trajectory. We can set our internal direction, our external trajectory, and become aware of our projection as we do so. In that way, we can create towards something that has an acceptance inside of it. Acceptance is the gift of the 25. So constriction training is trying to get us to a place of acceptance. It's a kind of a little, sometimes a backwards feeling training exercise. And it can be rather effective. It's also helpful, perhaps, if we look at it from the perspective of this is a thing that we experience on our way to. We can experience this constriction training, this pressurization on our way to accepting love, on our way to having the courage to simply feel the fear, move through it. That's really all that's needed. And boys are going to put up a big fuss. It's going to go, no, you're going to die. This is horrible. We're not going to let you remember. We're going to freeze your thoughts. Oh, you're tired now. Oh, you're really hungry. You got to just stop right now. Oh, you don't have interest anymore. There's so many distractions that are going to come in because shadows don't want to be seen, right? It's not to point a finger at anyone or anything. It's simply the nature of the shadow. As soon as if I go outside on a sunny day and I look around where my shadow is and I start trying to point at my shadow, I can't see my finger anymore, right? It's a matter of the practicality of the thing, of where the light source is. So like when I talk about like cultivating the ability to have a neutral observer mode so that we can look at things like our shadow without distorting it so much that we can no longer see what it looks like when we are just being ourselves, right? Like if I'm out there being myself and there's a light source that's casting a shadow, I might not be able to see it unless I'm standing in just a certain way. And so like that was one of the first places I learned to play with shadows. So like in constriction training, going outside and playing with the idea of what happens when I change my angle with how I dance with the sun, what changes in the distortion, Neptune, on the ground of my shadow, these retrogrades, in my ability to explore retrogrades, what it is that I'm actually doing. Because shadows are a reflection of an isness, not the actuality of it. We are not only our shadows. We are not only this constriction training. We are also love itself, trying to burst through. There's a point in the body called the spirit point. It's right below the rib cage. I'm going to stand up a little bit here. I'm putting my fingers. This is my rib cage. I've got my fingers wrapped around here. Right here at the apex, this little soft spot right here. Don't push too hard. That soft spot there, it can be a little vulnerable feeling. It can feel a little tight. It is also an apex where our diaphragm comes up to. And that spot there is also known as the top of the Hara point, Hara line. It sits above the cauldron, which is an energy vortex that's about 2 inches above our belly button. Those two energy points, like as I'm pushing on them now, they feel very tender. So don't poke them too hard. And they're activation points. But during this time when we're feeling really anxious, those are 2 points that might be really helpful to sit with. And when I say sit with, I mean like, take a couple of fingers, 2 or 3 fingers, find that middle point and gently press in just enough where you can feel almost like a beat and a push back. And then it's tuning in to one's inner self. It's like imagining that behind that point is this tiny little egg that contains the seed of your spirit that lives inside of your very being. And it's your responsibility to carry that well, to protect it, and to let it birth, to not protect it so much that it can't come out. And also that when it's birthed, it's not, it's birthed slowly and thoroughly and rejoicefully and nourishingly. Maybe in the past it wasn't allowed to birth in that way. Maybe it's never birthed. Maybe it got yanked out and shoved back. Maybe it got yanked out and lost. Like there's a lot of things that can happen that can dislocate us from ourselves. Finding that orientation during these times of upheaval can be an act of rebellion, an act of revolution in and of themselves. I invite us during these next few days. We have coming up on Thursday, I believe it is, Thursday. So tomorrow, Venus begins her retrograde back into Pisces. So right now she's been sitting in Aries. So everything's been kind of like real hot and intense. And as of tomorrow, you might find it softening. You might find it feeling more sad. You might find it feeling more internally reflective. And that's because she's retrograding back into Pisces. And she's going to be conjuncting side by side with, over top of, with Neptune. So we're going to be looking at illusions inside of love, inside of emotions. And the more easily we can see them and be unafraid to feel the pain and feel the fear and go, I am here right now. I'm going to nurture my spirit, I'm going to be with that process as I feel this intensity. Then as that energy with Venus conjuncting Neptune tomorrow hits, you might find some deep realizations. Gentle breakthroughs are on the menu this week, now through Saturday being the eclipse itself. We've got a solar eclipse, new moon, 9 degrees of Aries, and we will be in that energy of gate 17, line 6. That will be for the sun. And then the moon is going to be between 17 and 21. So if you put together what that eclipse means from a gate key perspective, it's looking at control and opinions. Our opinions around control and our control of our opinions. Ooh, we're looking at that inside of everything I just spoke about, right? So for example, we could control our opinions to the point of silencing ourselves about the things we experienced in our past, where now all we feel is like constriction or tightness or like emotions that come up without any understanding of why they come up, except that we know they're really personal. Right. And so that we can be kind of shut down around that, because the gate of opinions is a head energy, and it's one that, like, without its balance of gate 62, which we actually have defined right now. So we've got a lot of really potent energy of things that are balancing all over the place. Mars just moved into gate 62. So Mars just came out of that huge journey that it went for a long retrograde journey, a few months, 5-6 months worth of retrograde journey, where it went through gate 31, arrogance, leadership, humility. It learned an awful lot about startup energy and being emotionally immature, and then being able to move through abundance. And what is it like to hold out for abundance? And Mars has been debilitated inside of Cancer for months. And it's just beginning to move into a more aligned way. It's still in Cancer. And it's now has moved out of gate 53, which has been in for like 6 weeks. And now it's moving into gate 62, details and precision. So it's bringing details and precision to the opinions. Right? So in this new moon, where we've got this energy around what are the opinions that we're going to hold on to? How are we going to have an opinion about the past, about ourselves in that past, about the people we knew there, about the people we are now, the people we want to be, and sometimes even the people who we're learning that we are, right? We might be many things that we don't understand that that's how we are, right? Let me see if I can find another way to put this. Our experience of our own reality may be very different than the experienced reality that others have of us. There's another way still to put that. The way we are and the way people perceive us and the impact we have can all three be very different things. So looking at all of those different places where our energy has this ripple effect out. You ever throw a pebble into a pond and you watch it skip, and then you watch the ripples? We have the same effect with ourselves and with each other when we can find moments to follow those ripples, to feel what does that archetype of pain or that archetype of joy or that archetype of sabotage or that archetype of protector or that archetype of fighter or the archetype of the innocent. Where do these different places feed and fuel our ability to be present with change, to be present with crisis, to be present with humanity and how it flows? Where and how can it help us be more present when change comes to our front door? Uranus and Taurus. Gate 8, asking, how are we contributing? How are we going to walk our talk? How are we going to deploy our individuality for the benefit of the group? There's a two-part piece there, right? It's becoming clear about what is your benefit, what's your skill, and then what is it that serves the benefit of the group. Two-part piece. And that Uranus is kind of like, it's cracking us open. It might be the twist of the kaleidoscope, so to speak, of look at it a little bit deeper. Where can we find that inspiration deep inside for our own self and our own skin suit? Of course, we got Pluto, the old grandfather, sitting back in the corner. He's in gate 41, starting the codon cycle all over again. And then also bringing a real deep, like, ring the bell over top of the head of fantasy and say, what is it that's realistically possible? What is it that we can lean into anticipation with rather than fantastically imagine that might be so? Pluto is a wrecker of our illusions. Pluto says, I'm sorry, you've got a gaping hole in your side. You cannot proceed until you pull out that thorn, put a band-aid on it, drink some water, have a nap, and then maybe you can talk about getting back on the road tomorrow. Right? It's not about trying to slow us down. It's not about trying to drag us into another realm. It's trying to help us really wake up into the reality that we're inside of. Pluto is our underworld. Pluto is the, like, in the Matrix movie, when you were plugged into the Matrix, when you were in that other world, you were, you were in the real world. You weren't aware of the machine world. You weren't aware of that unplugged state. So becoming aware of multiple different states, coming to the place where, you get those places of signals and signs where, numbers are showing up and signals are happening, or messages or things that are occurring that are like signals for you, right? You might have a special sequence of numbers or a special color or a special song or a message that someone said to you at one point in time that all of a sudden then starts showing up in all these different places, and they become confirmations of where you are. Like, yes, right where you are is perfect. Please keep doing that. Do more of that, please. That's what I think about deja vu and those sorts of feelings and sensations, is to, yes, please be more present in those ways. That's really important for here and now. And it really feels like this eclipse time period is really like asking us, it's like life's kind of grabbing us by the shoulders in this very like gentle, firm, elderly grandmother, grandfather sort of way, and going, it's time, darlings. You've got this. All this time has been bringing us to this. It's go time. Let's do this. We got this. Now, I think with that, I'm going to call it complete for this time around. I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Have a wonderful eclipse portal, and I'm going to go back to conversations with Meeting of the Crossroads folks. Mwah. Until soon, YouTube community. There's the button. There's the button.